I want you to imagine that you're sitting around the table with your family at Thanksgiving, and that one relative, we all have one, starts talking about politics. Your blood starts to boil and you react. You end up in a heated conversation that has made Thanksgiving awkward for everyone. I'm sure we can all relate. Politics has become an untouchable topic. We know not to bring it up because it will cause a fight. But does politics have to cause a fight? Do we have to yell and insult each other? Why is it that once we know someone's political beliefs, it becomes the only thing that matters about them? The person that we once saw as a friend or neighbor is now only their political party. I believe that there is a way to talk about politics without yelling, without insults, and without hurting each other. I believe that our government and our political system are such a huge mess because we have stopped having conversations with people that we disagree with. In order to do better in Washington, D.C., we as individuals have to start having tough conversations with people who do not share our worldview. Change in political discourse starts with you and me. Last election cycle, I worked as a campaign manager to a state senator. I knew that politics were volatile before I started, but I had no idea how bad it was. As I went door-to-door campaigning, I was yelled at, insulted, and told that I should die by people who disagreed with me. I realized just how bad it was when we were walking in a parade. I was walking with one of my volunteers and they approached a spectator to give them candy. The spectator, upon seeing the shirt that my volunteer was wearing, threw the candy back at them and said, "I don't want your candy, I hope you choke." I was stunned. I started to realize that we are not only deeply divided in America, but we hate each other. I started to wonder how we got here, and what I found was disheartening. George Washington, when he was leaving office, warned us against the spirit of the party. He knew that one day this would cripple our democracy. His fears are coming true right now. We use our political parties to identify ourselves. We pour billions of dollars into the Republican National Committee and the Democratic National Committee every year. And the sad reality is, parties don't care about people. They care about power. Because of this, they are perpetuating a hostile political environment in order to win seats from the top of the ticket down. They are invested in every election, from the President of the United States to your local city council. They want you to believe that you should be afraid of someone outside of your party getting elected, not because they might not support policies that are important to you, but because they are a villain. They've been pretty successful at getting us to believe this lie. According to the Pew Research Center, 49% of Republicans would say that Democrats make them feel afraid. 55% of Democrats would say the same of Republicans. 35% of Democrats would say that Republicans are immoral. And 47% of Republicans would say the same of Democrats. Believing these lies takes the humanity away from those who see the world differently than us. It allows us to treat them with hatred, vitriol, and disrespect. Political parties want you to believe that the world is binary, that one side is 100% right and the other side is 100% wrong. But this is not the truth. The best government is one with a variety of perspectives. We need each other to balance. Our biases against each other are only deepened by our media consumption. We consume news media only from people who share our worldview. If we are liberal, then we seek out liberal news media. And if we are conservative, then we seek out conservative news media. On top of that, we get most of our news from social media, which means that we are only shown news articles about topics that are interesting to us. And if we don't want to see news about certain topics, we don't have to. Media bias is dangerous. Before the news media was biased, there was one narrative, and news was not 24-hour. So we all sat down together every night as Americans and watched the evening news. It was simple, just the events and factual. Now we all have our selected news media. And while before we were all working with one set of facts and we were all pretty clear on what was going on despite our differing opinions, now the news media is not outright lying to us, but they're selecting what to report. This is a problem because news media is competing for rates and for clicks and for views. This means that news is no longer about what is the most important facts, but about what news will get the most clicks. This is dangerous because it means we are being fed a steady diet of the biases that we already hold, and they're being presented as objective fact. Here's the problem. If we are being fed biased truths as unbiased facts, then we start to believe that our biases are factual. Instead of our worldview being just that, our worldview, it becomes the only way to see the world. It becomes the end-all, be-all of political conversation. And we start to believe that one side has the moral high ground and the other side is the enemy. I think you can easily see why this gets messy. Now, I'm not suggesting that we all agree all the time. It's unrealistic and it frankly makes for bad governance. But as it stands right now, congressmen and women will not even work across the aisle for fear of being seen as a traitor. We have to stop looking at each other as the enemy. We don't have to hate each other just because we disagree. And if we can have conversations with the goal of understanding, we are more likely to find common ground. Finding common ground shouldn't be the goal, but if we have these conversations with the goal of understanding, it is more likely that you will find it. We can argue well, but we have to value each other enough to have the conversation. Imagine how different our political conversations would be if instead of coming to them with our party talking points, ready to defend our team, we instead brought with us our values to these tough conversations. Instead of someone yelling at me and telling me I should die on the campaign trail, we might have had productive conversations about why we believe in different solutions. And we may have challenged each other's solutions by raising our concerns. That conversation would have been productive and left both people feeling valued and like they understood each other better at the end of it. Next election cycle, people will be coming to your door. People who agree with you and people who don't. I want to challenge you to treat the person who you disagree with differently than you might have before. Instead of saying your candidate is not in my party and shutting the door in their face, ask them some questions. Learn about their candidate. If you look beyond the letter next to their name, you may find that there are things that you agree with this person on. Or better yet, you may find that this is a great first step to having better political conversations. Don't have these conversations over social media. Stop tweeting about politics. If there is an issue that you are passionate about, sit down with people and educate them. Don't belittle them. Show them why you are so passionate about this issue and be okay with not bringing them to your side. We have to stop entering tough political conversations with the intention to win. If it's about winning and not about understanding each other better, then we all lose. We have to change the way that we think. Humans are prone to groupthink. We like it when everyone agrees. We like it when there is definite right and wrong. Nuance makes us feel vulnerable, and not knowing makes us feel afraid. We run to common enemies and party loyalties because that feels safe, but it also traps us. It keeps us from finding the best solutions. And it also keeps us from admitting that sometimes we haven't found the best solution yet, and we need to keep talking about it. This way of governing and relating to our peers is scary, because it will require you to admit that some of your long-held beliefs might be challenged, and that you may have been wrong about something for a very long time. But in this process, there is growth. If we can be vulnerable enough to say, I don't know if I agree with you, but I want to hear what you have to say anyway, then we will find each other's humanity again. But the only way this works is if we all participate. It requires that everyone get involved, stay engaged, and most importantly, we have to vote. Instead of running away from our ugly, messy political situation, which is the natural response, we have to run to it. We have to research every candidate from the top of the ticket down and decide not only if this person agrees with us, but if they are the kind of person that we want to see in office. We have to get involved. We have to stay engaged, and we have to vote. It is important to remember that you cannot control the way that others behave, but you can control the way that you react to it. If we all work together, we can change the way that we treat each other. If we can remember that we are first humans, second Americans, and third our smaller subgroups, then we will realize that we have more in common than what divides us. And if we can remember this simple fact, then the next time that one relative brings up politics at your Thanksgiving table, instead of wanting to throw mashed potatoes in their face, you may be ready to have a productive, values-driven conversation with them that leaves you both feeling valued. It is in these small moments that we will heal the divide in America. Thank you.